Let's go.
So thank you everyone for joining. Obviously we've already had a little bit of conversation before we've got started, and it is great to see that there's a few people joining us, well, from all over Europe and all over the world really. So it's very exciting. So for all of the newbies, welcome to QA Beginners Club. We will give you a bit more of an overview about what we're all about, but essentially we are a meetup specifically for people new to test or people who are looking to break into testing. Was I on mute that whole time then?
No, you weren't. You had gone to mute, but thankfully, I think you just finished your sentence just in time. So
no
nothing to see here.
Perfect. So yeah, we do have a code of conduct, which is obviously really important with any event. We've never really had to, do too much enforcement around this, but just so everyone's aware of the code of conduct, especially with it being an online event, just for ease, we say if you can remain on mute while the presenter is talking, just in case you've got any background noise. Any questions as well, just please wait for the opportune time. So if Chris or Nicola later are kind of in the flow of their talk, either pop the question into the chat, or there will be designated Q&A at the end of both of the talks. We try and make this as safe a space as possible. So by that, we mean, there's no stupid questions. Please don't kind of make anyone feel silly for asking anything. A lot of people that attend are very junior. So we do encourage people to ask whatever they want to know about. It's a free event. It will always be a free event, even when we have our in-person events in Manchester. We can do this through having various sponsors for our events as well. Everyone is welcome. So obviously we're tailored towards juniors / career changers, people get into test, but I know we quite often have senior testers either talk at the event or attend, and it's very much an open door policy. If senior people do want to come along, we do welcome that as well. Please just make sure you're respectful to others, and if there's anything that's made you unhappy or felt like it isn't a safe space, just drop myself, Ken, who I'm not sure is attending tonight, so myself or Chris a message, and we'll just make sure that that is rectified. And obviously, again, we've never had to do this, but breaking the rules will lead to being banned from future events. We want to kind of keep this as happy a place as possible. So we have 2 talks tonight, which is great. So obviously Chris already mentioned we've got Nicola coming a little bit later on, but we're getting started with Chris. So for those of you who are new to the event, Chris is talking tonight, but he is also, along with myself and Ken, the co-founder of QA Beginners Club. He actually came as, I suppose you would call yourself a career changer, wouldn't you, Chris, from kind of a non-technical background, non-kind of degree background into testing. So he's can really relate to a lot of people that attend the event. And just to give you a bit of a breakdown of his background, so he's currently an Agile QA test analyst at Rail Diary. He's worked for some other really great companies in Manchester like Music Magpie and Code Computer Love. And as well as QA Beginners Club, he gives his time to Ministry of Testing Manchester as well, and he's super active in that community. So I will hand you over to Chris, who I know is going to run through DevTools with you, and I think it's quite an interactive kind of chat as well. So obviously make sure you've got laptop at the ready, pen and paper at the ready, so you can kind of take down all the tips that Chris is about to give you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gabby. I'll let someone in. Yeah, so as Gabby mentioned, so obviously I'll be guiding through what is known as DevTools or Inspect. I briefly touched on this on our last talk, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about it this evening. And yeah, if you want to follow along, that is absolutely fine. I would actually recommend it because DevTools Inspect is a free tool within most browsers, Google Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and Safari. So even if you've got a website open at the moment, you've got internet access to it. However, I shall begin. So yeah, so Inspect Element is a part of the feature of DevTools that allows you to inspect and modify a page front-end web elements. As mentioned, this can be found on Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, and Apple Safari. They vary kind of how they look on browser, but most generically has all the same features because they're kind of keeping in line with each other. So how to open DevTools. There are several ways on Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. So one of them is to, on your web page, is to right click on your mouse and you'll see where my mouse cursor has gone. There we go. See here, this will pop up and you'll have inspect here. Or you can use on your keyboard, or if you've already reassigned it to something else, you can use F12. Or you can use Control, Shift, and C, which I didn't know till recently. Or as people use it even says on there, you can use Control, Shift, and I as well. And again, this will pop up. However, Apple Safari, because they have to be different. If you go into your Safari menu and preferences into the Advanced tab, down here there'll be a second section that'll say, because I'm nice, I'll even do a nice little demo here. It'll show developer menu in the menu bar. I don't have access to the Safari, so sorry, I really can't show you, but I've managed to get screenshots from colleagues, so this is the best I can do for you. If you enable this, then you can go into develop on your browser, which that now should appear. You'll have show JavaScript console, which again, pretty much looks similar to the same thing. Or if you do, I believe it's option, whatever that is, and C at the same time, then yeah, that'll pop us as well. So yeah, there are multiple ways you can get to inspect. So what elements can you manipulate on inspect? There are two main things, CSS and HTML. You may have heard of these, you may not, but I'll give you a brief description, but also during the demonstration, you can see what they are as well. So CSS is cascading style sheets. This is used to style and lay out web pages. For example, you can alter the font, excuse me, the font, color, size, and spacing of your content. So any sort of dialogue text you see on your web page, that's what it'll be, and the styling of it as well. And HTML, which we probably all have heard of, but never know what it actually means. But here we go. You now know it's hypertext markup language. I know every day is a school day. This tells the web browser how to display the text, images, and other forms of multimedia on the web page, including JavaScript as well. But I won't go too much into that because that is a little bit more advanced if you don't know what these are. But however, I will show you in the demonstration how you can look at these. Sorry, I got to let someone else in. I should like wear a doorman's badge, it'd be great. Okay, it's demonstration time. I love this GIF. That's me in 10 years. Okay, let's put you to one side. And let's go proper Blue Peter style. Here we go. This is what I found earlier. So it's got to keep things generic. This is probably the most, in 2022 with all things happening, this is probably the most nicest thing I could possibly find on the BBC website that wasn't depressing or war or people being slapped articles. This was the best I could find. Okay, so we have our web page. We have all our layouts on here. Unfortunately, for example, say our web page, we don't have access to a CMS. What is a CMS? You may ask. This is a content management system. There are loads out there. One called Umbraco, Pimcore. Oops, gotta let someone in. There are a few of us. This is where you can manage what images you want to go on a web page, what content you want to go on the web page. You would then save it, then you would publish it, then you kind of see what you're seeing on here. But sometimes things are hard coded. This is where it's done in the code and then it's published, then you can see what it is. So you don't really have that easy control. So this is what I'm going to show you today, how you can manipulate and test it to see how things react on a layout. So I'm going to right click and we're going to go inspect here. And this little bit will pop up here on the right hand side. However, it doesn't have to be on this right hand side. We can move it. So you can see dock side. So if I want to make it on the left hand side, I can do that. If I want to go to below, I can do it that way. Come back. Or if I really wanted to, depending if you're really posh and got lots and lots of screens, You can also put it onto another web browser, but just for the sake of argument, I'm just going to keep it on here. There we go. Right, so I'm trying to show you what I'm showing on the screen. So here, yep, this is our developer tools are in specs. So you can see as I'm highlighting different pieces here, we can see different parts are highlighting on the screen. So these are all the different elements that live on the page. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change, just start off nicely, I'm going to change a piece of text. So I would like to change what is written here. So to do this, see this little button up here? I will click this. And behold, there we go. As you can see, that is now being highlighted. And we've got a nice little bit of information box telling us our color, our font, what style it is, contrast. And also on the right-hand side in the elements itself, you can see it's highlighted. So there we go. So you can probably see here, we've got Hubble, single star detected at recording, blah, blah, blah. So this is our text. But it's like, oh, do you know what? I want to change that. So let's put, this is a demo of how to change text. Then we click out of this, and boom, there we go. We can see that has now changed. And just to point out, and I hope the BBC are watching, don't worry, this is not live. This only happens on your local machine, only what you're seeing here. So if I do refresh the page, I can see it reverts back to normal. Don't worry, you're not going to break anything. If you were to do that, you probably have to go through very deployment lines or anything before it gets onto the live site. So anything you're doing on here, do not worry, it will not be seen by the real world. Well, technically this is going on YouTube, but you get my point. So yes, we can have a little play with this. So it's like, well, I wonder what the limitations on maybe this little section is. So let's go Lipsum. Lipsum, there we go. So this is a nice little site if you just want to grab lots of text. So let's generate some Lipsum. Okay, I want to see what this little bit might look like with lots and lots of text. So I'll go back to my little element, just highlight it. There we go. Delete that. Add all my text in. Okay. Okay, that seems to have handled very well. What we call wraparound, the text wraps around quite nicely, doesn't seem to break. Obviously, things get pushed down quite a bit, but yeah, that seems good. So if you want to check anything wraps around properly, or if you add too much text, will it overlap a certain piece? But obviously, the pattern that I've got is quite reactive, so that's really quite good. So I'll just refresh that. Again, like I said, once you refresh, everything will go back to as it were. So that's absolutely fine. Don't worry, you are not going to break anything. Okay, so I'm done with that. It's like, don't like that image though. So how do we change an image? So again, got our little cursor here. Click onto that. And as we can see, we got image. I won't lie, it's a bit of gobbledygook. We've got the height restrictions that I do know. We've got kind of the class, yeah, so we've got CSS there. But I wanted to put in a different image. How do I do this? Oh, look at that. Here's one I preferred earlier again. So I want this image to go in, just for the sake of argument. So again, click on it, right click, go into inspect. Now what I'm going to do here, see it's highlighted there for me already, so I know where it is. I'm going to right click in here and edit as HTML, which is fine. So I'm going to grab that, copy. Oh, this is going to be annoying. Go away. Go back to here. Now in here again, I'm going to go into edit HTML. I'm going to get rid of all this. And then copy what I've just done. Click out of it. And there we go. Image has changed. And a good thing, so, ooh, maybe a little bug here that we could see that by changing the size of the image, the wraparound or the padding isn't reacting quickly. So we just now got big padding. So potentially this is a bug you could raise and go, okay, this has happened. This is not reacting as it should do. And a bug could be raised. But again, I'm just doing this for purely kind of demonstration. So I take it with a pinch of salt. Again, as soon as I refresh, there we go. It goes back to normal again. Oh, you might have a question. Yep. You're very welcome, Ellie. All good. Okay, so that's some little pieces you can manipulate stuff. Again, it will never, unless you're a proper hacker, which I never want to go down. You can manipulate all this, have a play with it. It's like I'm no expert, and I'm still kind of practicing this, and it's quite a bit of fun. It's good to see how pages react by different elements, changing things. This is why, again, and it's a free tool and it's part of the browser. I know it's called developer tools, but anyone can use it, especially testers as well. What else can I show you? Okay, nice little margin down here. And we can change colors as well. So I'm just going to move you slightly over. Okay, so I would like to change, I'll use this as an example. I want to change this color. Don't like it. So we highlighted before, if we had the color. So there's our color. So there are several things we can do. We can go on to a href, I think it is, hexref, something like that. Whereas website where you get that hashtag and you're given a number, that number will represent a code. Or I'm just going to keep things a little bit simple. What you can do is, there we go. All right, don't change, there we go. I can actually just type a color in, red. Medium violet red, no idea, there we go. You can see it's changed color. Is it going to change color again? Okay, dark and red. Oops, there we go, and it's changed color. So you can see how a different color might look on the screen, and the text as well might look even better. They can say, actually, this color looks better. Then they can change the color, then pull it live, something like that. You can even change margins. So if I go up to, they've cleared it out here. Boo. Okay, let's try padding. There we go. So there we go. You see the padding in the gray area. Don't know why I'm doing that with my finger. So if I go onto padding here, and I didn't know this until today, if I start using the up key and the down key, see how it's changing? There we go. And we put it back to normal, back down to 0. I don't think we can get lower than 0. Can we? Oh, we can. No, we can't. So yeah, so you can manipulate that as well. Oh yeah, we can. We can go to minus as well. It's a little bit slow to react, which is fine, but I will put that back to 0. Actually, I'll just refresh. So again, the little things you can do just to test the website to see how different things look, just by, again, I don't think the manipulate's the right word, but it's pretty much what you're doing. So that's kind of that part of it I wanted to demonstrate. Again, have a little bit of fun with it. Like I said, you cannot really break it unless you know how to do real hacking, but pick a website, just have a bit of fun. Then you can only really learn that way. There are loads of YouTube videos out there that'll probably give you in further in depth, but I just wanted to give you a little glance at the easy things you can do. I want to get rid of this toolbar, it won't go away. Okay, so there are some nice little things. So I briefly went over it last time. So there's the toggle bar, which is up here. So you can actually view things in different dimensions, but also how it look on mobile as well. There was a nice little feature, which is device frames, but I thought it went across all of them, but unfortunately it doesn't. So for new phones, so let's go with SE, it's not quite that new. So this is what it'll look like. But if you want to see in a nice frame, it'll do it for all the devices. So if you're like doing a demonstration to a client maybe, or a handover, and you want to give them more visual. So if you do use older ones, you actually get the nice frame that goes with it. So we've got iPhone, we've got, I think iPad does it. No, it's the Pro. There we got a nice frame. Even the Nest shows it. There we go. And also a nice little feature as well is this one here, which is rotate. I rotate it so you can see what it looks like on landscape as well. And then you just rotate it back. Okay, but it's like, okay, what does it look like if you got no internet or you got really slow internet? Next to that, there you got throttling up here. So no throttling means it's the quickest, whatever your device is on at the moment. Obviously, I'm on wide connection, so it's going to be pretty quick. It's like, well, I wonder what the page looks like if it runs really slowly. So we've got a couple of options here. We've got offline, we've got low-end mobile, and higher tier. So if I go low, try and refresh, that'll probably take its time. Yep. So it's going really slowly. There we go. The image is taking its time to load up. It's still going. Should have picked medium. There we go. So you can see how long things take to load up just by changing the throttling up here. And you can see you probably got little warnings up there by performance and network. That's probably triggered because I've purposely put my internet connection on really slow, but I'll just revert it back to normal. Yep, there they go. What else we got here? Okay, another one I do want to show you is network. I know at first glance, some of it is like, I have no idea what this means. But again, over time, like myself, you will just learn what these understand. Some of you might recognize, so you've got like JPEG here. Even got it tells you what the type of file it is as well. And also you might recognize status with 200s, 500s, 400s. So good testing is like, if you want something to personally break, or if you hit like a redirect page, so it's like a page no longer exists and you do a redirect. In this status here, you would expect to maybe see, I think it's 403 or 401. Don't know why I got so high pitched. That's where the website hasn't failed, but that web page might no longer exist. So you expect to see a 400. Or if something happens to the website internally, you might then see a 500, and you expect to see this here. I do not know all the numbers, but I know basically like 200s, 400s, 500s. And let's one in. Oh, Nicola's here. Yay. Sorry. So that's, so I mean, we'll probably do another session we'll do a session what all these status reference numbers means, but basically the 201 is something you do want to see. 400 is not so bad because it means your website's working, but a web page just might not exist, so you might get a 400 error. And also, same again, we have throttling as well, but you can also create a custom one. But again, I'll go into more detail about in another session. But the next one I do want to come up with, and this one is really, really good. It shows a really good skill set as well, and some of you may have heard of it, is Lighthouse. So I'll click onto here. And if you've never heard this before, as if he had a slide prepared for it. Indeed, he does. Lighthouse Audit Report. What is it? Lighthouse will give you a web page audit score, 0 to 100, and go through and give a report on how well that page is done. 0 obviously being the lowest, 100 being the highest is the perfect score. The score is broken down into 5 categories: performance, progressive web app, best practices, accessibility, and SEO. What do these mean? Your performance is how long does it take for your web app or your web page to show content to become available. So it might take 5 seconds for a URL to pop up and for you to actually click it for it to work. It might take 3 seconds for text and just images to pop up. Progressive web app. Does this web page meet the standards of the progressive web app standards? Obviously, I always tell the truth. I have no idea what that means. It's probably, I'm guessing, more of those set of standards that has to meet. I do not know what they are. Your best practices, this is a bit more of a development thing, that they are using the best practices that for modern web development. Accessibility, this one we have covered before and we'll probably cover again. This one is really super useful. Tells you if the web page is usable to people with disabilities and impairments. If it's not 100, it should be. And the last one is the SEO. Is this page optimized for search engine results? Basically, it tells you how the ranking is. If the score is low, if someone does a search, it'll probably be at the bottom of the list. So if you've got a search of 1 million and your score is 0, it'll probably be in millionth position. It's 100, then it'll be higher up, might not be number 1 because there are some that pay to be that high up. Higher scoring, the higher the search result you will be. So let's have a bit of fun with this. So I'm back on the BBC website. I'll get rid of this. So I didn't want to get rid of that. So I would like to run a Lighthouse audit on my page. So I do want to get rid of that. So go to Lighthouse. As you can see, I can actually choose which ones I want. I can also do it to be on a mobile device, on a desktop, but for this presentation, I'm just going to do it on desktop. I'm going to generate my report. I remember using this for the first time a few years ago. It was really slow. It took about 2 to 3 minutes. This literally takes about 30 seconds now. Please don't let me down my house after I've just said that. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so accessibility best practice in SEO. Well done, BBC. I'm glad I'm paying my fees for that. However, performance is quite low. So obviously Lighthouse will give you a report and tell you things that are. So total blocking time is quite high. Largest contentful paint, no idea, but I'm guessing because there's actually quite a lot of image text, URLs, links, it's probably why the score's so poor. Server images in next gen formats, probably size images, yeah. Reduce and use JavaScript, so there's a lot behind in images tent. It's probably why it's running so slowly, yeah. And what you can do is you can export these as well. I think it's here. So you can save them as JSON files. But what I normally do is print summary. Then you can save it as PDF and forward it on to developers and go, look, how can we improve this? Or you have like a free Amiga or something, like how can you improve all these? But I think with all the content they have, I think they might struggle with that. I'm sure I admitted it before, unless he's rejoined. Hello again, Nicola, if you just rejoined. So yeah, that is pretty much me with the kind of basics of DevTools and Inspect. How, I think we've still got a little bit of time. Is anybody want to chuck into the chat? Quickly, give me a website to do. Go on, who's going to give me a website? Or if you've already been doing this as I've been talking as well, have you done a house light report on another website? Tesco's.com. Okay. Oh, that dropped down. Go away. Tesco.com. Wow, that purple's bright. Okay, inspect. Let's go Lighthouse. DuckDuckGo.com. I would go Facebook, it means I've got to log onto my profile. Oh, that's not happening. Okay, it's Tesco. I think that text might drop their accessibility score, but we'll soon see. This is 100, then fair plays. Oh, the anticipation. I knew it dropped it. Yeah, accessibility. Yeah, I thought that would drop. Best practice. I mean, they're not terrible, but obviously anything in 90 and above, yeah, you're going to kind of the green category. So who's got the other one? Duck. Okay. I'm really dubious what this is going to come up with. No. You don't work for Duck, do you, by any chance? Okay, let's get rid of that. Oop. Okay, Lighthouse. And let's go. something. Here we go. Good performance is good. Ooh, accessibility. Best practice is good though. And SEO is good. 75, probably could be better. And again, I'll scroll down. So accessibility is 81. Buttons do not have an accessible name. Ooh, that's interesting. Image elements do not have attributes, alternatives. So like, let's one in. So for example, what that might be is, so I just use this as an example. So this obviously a picture of a duck. If you're kind of using like Vox Crom, I think it's called, which is where if you're tabbing or clicking on things on a website, a voice will actually talk to you. So that might have an alternative image text. So as you click on that, it'll say nothing, is where it should say like cartoon duck or something like that. Are there any other testing user cases that we could use DevTools for? There are loads, but again, they're a bit more in depth, and some are probably maybe a developer would probably explain better than I could. Like the network tab, again, like status, 304 document. Ooh, never seen a 304 before. Yeah, talk about how to clear like in memory. Is it memory or application? Application. Talk about local storages, session storages, cookies. Yeah, that's a bigger thing. The demonstration of this was just like a quick overview of what DevTools can do, and like a kind of more of a front end perspective, how you can test it, manipulate things to see if they break or not. That was kind of more the point of this. So I've now been on for a good half an hour. So are there any other questions? I can't ask from our websites now. Sorry. If you want to come up mute and ask me a question, that's absolutely fine to do. Nope. Nope, that's absolutely fine. If we're all good. I hope you understand that. Like I said, as Gabby mentioned before in the questions asked, yes, this is going to be going on our YouTube channel. So if you're kind of unable to keep up or you just wanted to watch, that's fine. Just follow back and just follow what I did. And yeah, I said, have a bit of fun with it. And you probably learn more than I do. And maybe next time we have this session, you can teach me a thing or two. So it is, we're gonna have a minute or two break. Toilet. And then that's fine. Then yeah, we're gonna hand over to Nicola to do her talk, which I'm very, very, very excited about.
Perfect. So I think it's 9 minutes past now. Obviously people can kind of dip off as and when they need to with it being online, but if we just do a little bit of a break until 2 minutes past, and then we will reconvene, and Chris obviously will pass over so you can share your screen, Nicola. So if anyone just needs to nip off, get a drink, go to the toilet, whatever else, and we'll reconvene in 2 minutes time.
Cool. Catch us all then. Hello, welcome back everyone. Yep, that was a very, very quick break. Excuse me, sorry. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Nicola. So I'm really, I know we've kind of, I've already chatted before, but I'm really super excited for this talk. Quick overview. Yep, so he's a senior QA manager at us2. The author of Starting Your Software Testing Career, a former test consultant at House of Testing Consulting, QA engineer at Bend, I think I said that right, and test consultant at Surety Consulting. So yeah, Nicola, if you want to come online, then I shall hand over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
There we are, yep.
All right, sweet as. Okay, I'll switch to sharing screen so that I'm host disabled attendee. Oh, can I not share screen?
That's fine, I am doing that now. You should be able to now.
All right, sweet, one sec. Blah, blah, blah. There we go. Alrighty.
There we go.
I'm not so good with Zoom.
It's all right.
I've used other tools, so if I look a bit stupid, you know why. All right, first a little bit about myself. Yep, so I'm the author of Starting Your Software Testing Career. Co-author of How Can I Test This? This is a book that a few others and I are working on. I focused on examples, international conference speaker, blah, blah, blah. I started two testing meetups, one in Stockholm, where I used to live, and one in Auckland, which is where I'm originally from. I've taught software testing courses, both in-house and also part of vocational training. I think that's a term commonly recognized around the world, vocational training. I've run workshops, coached, mentored, and helped multiple testers. And I've been the co-instructor of the BBST Foundations course multiple times. BBST stands for Black Box Software Testing. Today, I'm going to talk a bit about my background and how I got into testing. I'll focus quite a bit on that. And then some parts of my book along with the background. So some parts that aren't really in the book explicitly, but I'd like to explain why I decided to include it in the book and why I thought they were important. So for example, test automation, which a lot of people like to talk about, implicit requirements, and so on. Regarding questions, I'm not going to have the chat open, but could you please hold any questions until the end? Oi, there we go. So in terms of skills, I posted a tweet on Twitter about a week ago, and I was curious about other people's background who didn't have a tech background and they moved into testing, which transferable skills they brought with them. I was also curious as to how they presented their skills in their CV and their cover letter. Unfortunately for this meetup, well, I did get a lot of input on the transferable skills, not as much as to how it looked in their CV or the cover letter. So no surprise, in my opinion, the most popular transferable skills was strong communication skills and then paying attention to detail. If you go to the QR code, you'll see the tweet along with all the responses. One second. Now, when I got into testing, actually, I'll take a step back. Often when I have spoken to people who got into IT, or at least people that I've heard about, so I'm not sure if it's representative of the general population, a lot of people who got into testing or IT were into computers or technology. I actually wasn't one of those people. I feel like I used computers as much as most people. My extent to using computers was for like uni assignments, and then using stuff like Messenger, MSN Messenger. I'm not sure if people remember that. So this, the technical skills that are showing here is from my Assurity consulting profile when I was being sold for my first project. As you can see, it wasn't really anything to brag about. You're kind of like straight shit as to, oh, she knows how to use a computer. That was literally where I started. I would like to share my CV to show a bit as to where my starting point was. This is the CV I used, or this is the first page of the CV I used to get into a grad program. Assurity still does this. They have this 1 or 2 intakes a year to train up testers and then be put onto projects. One of the key parts that I tried to stress on my CV was my communication skills. Throughout university, I did presentations at high schools, and I did presentations at high schools to promote learning German. I also did presentations to other uni classes after I went on exchange. A lot of my CV is around this. Sorry, 1 second, this part's in the way. I also did quite a bit of extracurricular activities, but if you were to skim through this page and the last one, I didn't really have any tech background that I was trying to highlight. One thing I remember just trying to say, or hoping to show the company, that other than communication skills, I'm good at analytic skills, which I entered this economics competition. I organized events for ISEC. I'm not sure if people have heard of that. And I was one of those people who, this wasn't actually everything I did at university. I was one of those people who said yes a lot. So when opportunities came, I would say yes. And then as a result, more opportunities would come. So for example, doing exchange in Germany and then getting a scholarship for that really opened up other doors. And like now, say, with the book or speaking at this meetup, I do try to be open to opportunities because they tend to lead to more, so to speak. My employment history at the time, this is all part-time. A German ambassador actually got paid to do that, which is quite nice. I tutored maths, economics, and German. And then for about a year, I basically just did a bunch of Excel spreadsheet reports for companies who were trying to save money on their electricity bill. And I mean, this is like, not like a few dollars here and there, but I guess companies that have a lot of money, that are spending lots of money on electricity. So that's where I started. In terms of how I developed, so this is a bit of a quick slide, and I realize I'm speaking quite fast. I started speaking at conferences in this early 2016. I started my testing career in 2012, so about 4 years experience. I did the Speak Easy program, which doesn't currently exist anymore. This was a program set up where you would be mentored by someone, and then they'd help you with your abstract. They'd help you to actually prepare the talk, the slides, and then you'd get to give the talk. Since then, I've spoken at quite a few conferences. I have taught and ran workshops at projects, and also a little bit on client side, both hands-on testing with a machine. I started off my career focused on test cases. In 2012, at least as I remember it, when I remember kind of like looking at job ads just to see what was out there, I don't remember seeing as many job ads asking for test automation. So it was mainly using tools like IBM, RTC, HP, I think it's called HPQC. It's exploratory testing. And then I got into test automation. The real reason I got into test automation was kind of like, I felt like I had to. So I've grown to like it, don't get me wrong. But I'm actually going to give a conference talk about this in Slovakia. I was made redundant because I didn't have test automation skills at the time. So this was with about 3 years of experience. At that point in time, I had started to learn test automation. I was like, yeah, seems to be what the cool kids are doing. I should probably learn it, blah, blah, blah. And then I found out, oh, there are going to be a bunch of layoffs. And at that point, we didn't know who was safe and who wasn't. But then my boss gave me the heads up that you're probably going to have to go because you don't have the skills. And I was like, fuck, you know, I mean, I cried like a baby. But at the start, I thought to myself, well, it's nice to have a job, right? So I got another job easily. That was no problem. But I did spend quite a bit of time, and I still do study into upskilling. As I said before, in 2012, there wasn't as much demand, but like when I've looked at job ads on and off the past few years, and I look at the requirements, test automation tends to be asked for. So I did say I started to learn it because I was made redundant, and I was like, I don't fucking want that to happen again, you know, or at least you don't want to be in a position where you're genuinely worried about finding another role. So for me at the time, test automation was like an insurance policy, an insurance against myself, so to speak. But then I grew to like it. I remember the learning curve as someone who doesn't come from a technical background. There's a point, it's like with learning another language. It's like there's a point where it's like very difficult, and it feels like you're butting your head against a wall. And then things just start to click and make sense. So once I got to that point, I started to enjoy it more. What I also appreciated was that I started with Java, Selenium. It gets easier to pick up other things. So yeah, so a bit of a rant there about test automation, but I'll talk more about test automation in general later. Work travel. I've been fortunate to have traveled for work. So, I mean, I worked in New Zealand, but then other than 4 conferences, I worked on a project in Germany because I got that project because I studied German, so that was pretty cool. And I also worked with the eBay Spain. So this was for eBay Germany, and that was because I speak Spanish. So one thing I really appreciated about these opportunities is that the languages I also speak were actually put to use. One thing I forgot to say at the start. Why I studied languages and economics was because I wanted to be a diplomat. The reason I am speaking to you today is because that government department in New Zealand wasn't hiring that year. They were doing a bunch of layoffs. So I thought, looks like you're not going to be a diplomat yet, or so, you know, now. And I saw this job ad for a surety, and they weren't asking for a computer science degree or software engineering degree. They're asking for like analytical skills, curiosity, willingness to learn, which I felt like I possessed all those qualities. So I decided to apply. All the other people in my intake had done computer science and stuff. So any more of the technical parts I really struggled with. But yeah, life doesn't really always work out in the way you'd expect. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that sometimes your path can take a little bit longer. So there are 3 parts of my book I'm going to mainly talk about: upskilling, test automation, and implicit requirements. And then at the end, if you wanted to ask me questions in general, you could ask me. So upskilling. When writing this book, one thing I really came across was how crowdsourced testing could be used not just as a path into a software testing career, which a few people who I interviewed had used it in that manner, but also to upskill. UTest is a platform, I think it's probably the biggest platform or the most famous platform for crowdsourced testing. I used to have an account. This was years ago. I don't know if the platform has changed, but what would happen is you would create an account. You'd say which country you are in, what devices do you have access to. Maybe, I think maybe they had some information on like your age or about you, because they wanted things to get tested by the right people, or people who met their characteristics, so to speak. Then you'd get a testing project, and based, I guess, in general on the bugs you'd find, they'd give you some money. I remember one thing that surprised me about crowdsourced testing was how it could specifically be used to gain skills in something that you do not already have. So Heather Reed, I don't remember what exactly it was, but she said that's how she used it. She got onto a project of some sort of like mobile app testing when she did not have any mobile app testing experience. She then got to be involved in the process, find bugs, write tests, so on and so forth. So then in the future, when she wanted to apply for jobs or just, apply for jobs, then she had something to point to saying, hey, look, I actually have mobile app testing experience. It's common to struggle to get experience in something because people only want to hire people with experience. From what I heard, this I'm not speaking from experience, I'm speaking from other people's experience who I interviewed. But I just want to highlight that if you are facing that obstacle, crowdsourced testing is something to look into. The second thing is online courses, and this is actually how I learned how to. With learning how to write test automation, I also use things like Codecademy and like random like article-based websites. But I found online courses was by far very effective. Test Automation University, I'm just going to give a shout out to them. They have some really good stuff on there. I've done like 20 of their courses, I'll be honest. Like 17 were really, really, really good. 3 of them not as good. So I'm not saying all of them are really good, but seriously good stuff on there. With online courses, I would say, regardless of what you want to learn, there's probably a really good resource out there. So if you start something on Udemy or Test Automation University, or maybe something on YouTube or Pluralsight, and you find that you don't like the speaker style, you don't like the sort of way they're communicating information and they're not very clear, hopefully you're able to figure that out in 5 minutes and you can just quit the course. Most courses will have most paid courses will have some sort of preview. I learned to quickly evaluate courses and see, okay, is this something that I want to watch or partake in for like 6-7 hours or 2 hours, depending on the course. I did say earlier about spending free time upskilling. One thing is, okay, like I feel weird about saying like make time because everyone has different circumstances about their personal life. But I'm of the camp, and I'm probably gonna like offend people here, You make time for things you have priority for. Ultimately, there is a lot of choice involved. So sometimes you need to sacrifice a bit of sleep so that, say, when your children have gone to bed, then that's when you study or do whatever. But I do feel it's ultimately a matter of choice to make time for upskilling. I also really track my time on social media and other sites so that I don't lose time on them and just end up on the never-ending scroll. Test automation. I already stated, I started learning it about 2.5 to 3 years into my career, and I feel like the demand is a lot more now than when I started my career 10 years ago. I feel that when you've learned 1 or 2 different frameworks, other ones do get easier to pick up because you've learned how to learn and set things up. And when I say set things up, I mean set up a test automation framework. But then on my projects, it gets rather hyped up. So they just want 100%. They want more. But then I feel like just because you can doesn't mean you should. Sometimes the amount of time it would take to set up tests, and then how flaky they would be because you're like dependent on a third party. I feel you shouldn't always aim to automate everything that you feel like you technically can. It can be satisfying in a weird way, but no. I also felt like, at least in the projects I've seen, and I mean, maybe other people can speak to it later. When people found out that I could contribute in that way, I ended up getting more respect from my colleagues, which sucked. Or it was nice for me, but it kind of sucked for others. In one of my past projects at IKEA, I originally joined that client because of my background in like coaching and agile. So I didn't really mention that I could write test automation. I then was put into a team and it was like all good. But then when they found out that I knew my way around code, it's weird how that dynamic changed. The developers that I was working with just before I went on maternity leave, I'd hear them talk about the testers who couldn't write test automation or even like find their way around terminal, not as positively. So this is just based on my experience. But one thing I have really, really appreciated about learning how to write test automation is that it frees me up to do exploratory testing. It's nice to also have a choice. So if you come across some sort of problem or that you need to test something, if you don't know how to write test automation, then you do not have a choice. But at least if you've got that knowledge or skill set, then at least you can make an informed decision. Implicit requirements. So in one of my previous projects, we worked on a login feature, and there were some user stories around how the login feature would behave, like when you enter the correct username and password and you click submit, you're taken to a certain screen. There was user stories around the wrong password and so on. But then there wasn't any user stories around logout. So the developers never built a logout functionality. I went to the developers and asked, where is the logout functionality? I mean, if you have login, you should have logged out. And they said, well, there's no requirement for this. I had to then go back to the business analysts who confirmed my suspicion. And then at, I think, stand up or something the next day, we agreed, okay, we need to build logout, just, because that was an implicit requirement. He thought the same as I did. Login has to come with logout. So when it comes to requirements, often when people say, I need to test all the requirements, or I need to make sure that there's traceability against the requirements, then usually they're talking about explicit requirements, something that has been usually written down, but technically an explicit requirement could be something that has been verbally stated as well. An implicit requirement is something that people assume that will be included or that you should know. In this story, this was the logout functionality. On projects, other things that I've seen would be performance. Often you don't always have written performance requirements, and then here you kind of need to read between the lines and guess how fast is fast enough. Security, so people assume that their software will be secure. And another example would be the law. So at my employer, we have international clients. And that comes with its challenges because you're not always aware of local laws. But then the clients can take for granted their local laws. They might not always think to communicate those with you. Easy examples would be GDPR in Europe, and then the accessibility ones in the US. One more story I'd like to share about implicit requirements and how you can probably see in the day-to-day is about talking. So, let's say you're single and you're speaking to one of your friends, you're both single, and you're like, what do you want in a guy? What do you want in a girl, right? And then you list qualities like kind, great to talk to, likes music, funny, I don't know. But then, so this is for me. I have quite a few friends who are Christian. So then when I've been having these conversations with these friends, they don't tell me that they want someone who is of the same faith. But there is an implicit requirement, which comes from the fact of of what they know, I know about them. But then if they tried to communicate in this way to someone else, they would probably have to make that implicit requirement explicit, because that person who may try to set them up with someone would not know that that is a requirement from them. Now, I ended a bit abruptly, but are there any questions? Thank you. Are there any questions?
Yeah, apart from Selenium that you mentioned, what other automation tools have you had experiences with?
Cypress, but I didn't set it up. I was just a contributor, and then XCTest for iOS and Espresso for Android. I set those up.
Oh, nice.
But Selenium, WebDriver, and what's it called? Unity.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. There's a tool, Alt Unity by Ultim. So that was in C#, and that was in C# because that's what the developers wrote it in.
Nice.
To use a language that developers are using.
Oh, cool.
Perfect. And I've got a quick question, and this may already be the answer on screen, but if people did want to buy your book, Nicola, where's the best place for them to find it?
So the QR code, I think, takes into the Leanpub page.
Okay.
So if you like ebooks, Leanpub is the way to go. Otherwise, Amazon would be for the physical version.
Okay. Perfect. And I think that we might have some questions in the chat box. I don't know if you can access them as well, Nick. I think
yes, I'm just reading it. Everyone can see it, right? So I'll just quickly read it and then I'll answer. Okay, one sec. Okay. So, okay, so my understanding, Sion, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing Sion's name correctly. So Sion's a sole tester, freelancing for a while, have taught themselves, and they want to take it to the next level. Okay, so I guess Sion could write the answers to my questions in return. Because the first thing, next level could be like managerial. So do you want to go down the test lead path, or do you want to go down like a more technical path, or become like a senior contributor? Okay. I tend to focus learning on what I could actually use at the time. So I had spent time trying to learn how to write test automation with Python, and then just Python as a programming language. But since I never got to apply it, I forgot everything I know. Like if you put me on a project with Python, I'd be useless. So my advice would be, if you want to do test automation, focus on what you can apply. So what framework? I'm not sure if it's a website or something that you're doing, but based on that technology, I would go down there. There are, as I said, there's lots of courses out there. So there are almost for everything most things I can think of. There's also courses which show you how to set up a framework. That's by far the hardest. In terms of getting feedback on your programming skills, you could ask developers for that and pair with them. I have found the developers I've worked with have been more than happy to help give me some feedback. If you wanted a mentor, you could write more details about what you want, and then go on like club, Ministry of Testing club. Did you have anything to add, Chris?
No, all good. That's been very, very insightful, and it's always good to hear all the different journeys. Obviously, we've had previous guest speakers, all their different journeys of how they've become testers as well. Again, as you mentioned, like what transferable skills they had, which they transferred over to become a tester. But yeah, your journey's been quite amazing, especially being in different countries as well.
Did you have anything to add regarding like developing skills for Sion?
Similar language to was like learning test automation. If I know it's not a road you want to go down. When I first became a tester, it's like I found it a bit intimidating. It was like how much was involved with coding and everything, but then I kind of sort of baby stepped onto Selenium IDE, which is a Chrome extension. I think it started out as a Mozilla extension, but then I think they got rid of it. Then Chrome kind of went, all right, we'll have it.
Is this the one that would like record what you did? That's how I started as well. I forgot that. Yeah, it made me feel so cool. Oh, I'm doing automation.
Thank you. Yes. In fact, we are going to do an automation one later this year. So there's a heads up already, people.
Yeah.
But Selenium IDE, if you've not heard of it, I'll go into the Google Store or Chrome Store. Chrome Store, I think it is. And look at Selenium IDE. It's so good. So it shows you the code as you're writing it as well. And again, you can add your own in. Again, change a few little bits. It's kind of again how I started. Then I migrated all my Selenium IDE tests over to Cypress. That's why I kind of asked about what you were using. I really like Cypress, and again, it's got a similar thing where you can click on and it'll basically give you what the recommended code would be. If you're still unsure, copy and paste it in. It goes, oh, it works. This is great.
That's
and again, as you were saying, you kind of get that joy out of it. It's difficult to explain. It's like I just did automation. So as much as you don't want to say you want to get into automation, I would definitely say give it a go. Start with Selenium IDE. It's so easy to use, and then you can then start understanding how the code works. And even though you might not you might understand how to write it, but at least you can learn how to again add to it or change a few little bits to make it right. And if you still don't like it, then you're going to go, oh well, I gave it a try, and then technically you can add it on your CV as well.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
Yeah. Sorry, my name is Shem, and
Sure.
How you doing?
no problem. Hi. One, when you have to go down the automation route, then you have this dilemma of choosing the right framework to use, and because it's useless when you start to explore different frameworks to find the one that suits your particular project. Now, it's confusing for me because I basically do exploratory and black box testing at the moment, and because I work alone, I don't have anybody that I'm learning from, and it's like a rabbit hole for me. I would rather I want to grow personally, but I would want to also grow in areas that can impact me positively on the job, or knowing what to do to help me grow positively on the job becomes so confusing.
Okay. What kind of level would you say that you're at currently? I know I empathize with when you say that you're the only sort of
I'm
QA
junior.
tester, junior. Yeah, because I kind of empathize because I'm, again, myself the only QA tester within a company. But I've got like 5 years experience.
And I've
it's
gotten just 1 year. I have 1 year experience working within the company, and aside from the freelance thing with U-Test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like it's kind of Nicola mentioned before. It's like you'd be surprised if you speak to developers how helpful they'll be if there's something that you want to learn. Because believe it or not, like some developers learn testing as well. Have a word with them, saying, is there something I can learn that again, like with developer tools that I demonstrated before, learning more like kind of like how the network tab uses, how the caching works, how cookies works. Ask them about that and ask them to demonstrate it to you. And then what you can do is something I used to do. Whenever say that you do have like a change in a URL, or you have a change, like a redirect, for example, obviously one of the main things is you click on it, does it redirect to the right page? Yeah, job's done. However, is the code in the background correct? And is it throwing up like a 404, which it should do? Is it giving any other errors? This is something you can actually look at, but again, it's a free tool to use. And if you speak to a developer, they'll show you actually keep an eye out for this piece, and then you kind of learn from there. Because again, that's how I've learned it, because I just speak to developers. Again, 99% of the time, they're absolutely spot on. They will help you. Yeah, so just have a word with them.
And I'd like to add, in terms, so this is for Shun. Is it a web-based or is it mobile app that you're?
Mobile
Okay.
gaming app.
Native?
iOS and hybrid. I would say hybrid. iOS and Android.
Ooh, hybrid. Somebody
So
don't.
Hybrid.
It's hybrid. I'm not. I don't have a background. I can't be helpful. Sorry.
You actually
I'm
pointed
sorry.
me to one of the to a resource on Twitter, because I said the games are built in Unity, but it's like if you can't find a particular people, if you can't find a community in that direction, then you still have to. You're lost, because at some point we used to use simulators, but right now we don't use simulators because it doesn't work with the version of the Unity. So you have to play these games physically, with the devices, but lots of fragmentation issues, and so.
Yeah, I mean, native app testing is a funny one, because you can't quite do it like in depth, especially like to see like source code stuff like that. You can't do that on a native app, as far as I'm aware. As well with web app or web page, yeah, you simply right click, there's displays everything. But on like a native app on device is a bit more difficult to do, unless you kind of then go into, I think there is a setting within the phone itself where you can unlock a developer device. I can't quite remember the name of it. Then you hug it up. But yeah, that's touchy ground, because then if it's your own personal phone, which they wanted me to do, it was like, no. Does anything that happens with your phone, that's it. Void and null. Yeah, your phone's broke if anything goes wrong. But yeah, with native app, same kind of boat. That's a difficult one to kind of advise on. But again, I do all the deployments. on the builds going to native app. We were using App Center. I think we now use something else called Code Magic. Again, you don't get to see much, unfortunately, of the code behind it until you kind of test it on the front end.
If for like testing, I know for web-based testing, tools like Chrome DevTools and then the network tab, and then inspect, they're quite nice, but then you may like that or feel that you like that on mobile. For the network part, Charles Proxy helps you out there. I've got a blog post on that. Check it out. Yeah.
Ooh,
but
nice plug.
That's I learned that at Venn, so it made testability and all these scenarios a lot easier to test. I did find between, at least for native, Android was a lot easier than iOS, for me at least, in terms of being able to have some sort of dev tools equivalent.
Yeah.
But you found the same thing, Chris. So yeah, it's and also in terms of the programming language, it was in Kotlin, and Swift is very, very different to what I was used to, or what I am used to. Is it okay? Sorry.
I'll go after you.
Have we answered your question, Sean?
Yeah, at least I would still go back to your resource, the one you posted, and I would still keep searching. And yeah,
okay.
And I'll work with my developers. Yes.
Okay. If you posted, so if you're asking for a hybrid, I know there's a Cypress. I have to ask. I'll write in the group or at the meetup page. There is something that was being used for native that one of my colleagues was using for his project. But I can't remember off the top of my head. React
Native, yeah.
Yes, that's it, right? That's for hybrid. He was using that. So if you look at resources on React Native, I think that would address, I think that would be suitable. So I'm a bit slow tonight. But yeah, React.
No problem. No problem.
So
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Yeah.
For regarding test automation courses, I don't know of any that I could recommend in Udemy. The ones, so for learning, other than Test Automation University, I use like Codecademy and then just like YouTube videos, bits here and there. The only Udemy course that I had done and really, really enjoyed was Colt Steele's Web Developer Bootcamp. So if you wanted to upskill in that area, that'd be really good. But do you have any recommendations, Chris?
Funny enough, I do. QABC last year, our other member, Ken Fulton, did about an hour and a half session on how to use and set up Cypress. So yeah, if you go to on our YouTube channel, you go to that. Yeah, Ken Fulton did quite an extensive session on that one, and I can't remember if we did record it or not, or we did it at the very beginning. But we will be doing a session on automation tools, and one of them we mentioned before. What Nicola and I kind of we started on was Selenium IDE. Yeah, I'll be doing probably a session on that one, how to set that up and use it. It is, to get you started, is just, it's so good, so easy. I kind of just want to play with it now.
Yeah, ease me into it. I'm just going to read Matthew's question.
I would just jump in there as well, just while you're reading through that question, Nicola, and just say, I think Udemy is great, but I think if you are wanting to learn automation, from everyone that I've spoke to, it seems like Test Automation University is the place to be going for online courses. So I'd probably check that out first. And then if you can't find what you need on there, maybe revert to Udemy or other platforms.
Sweet. And if you have some freedom as to what to choose to learn, Angie Jones' courses is by the Java one and the Selenium WebDriver. She has the most detailed one, like it's the most broken down. So I did the courses with a bit of experience already. I feel Angie Jones's Selenium WebDriver one would have been the one that my least experienced self could have kept up with. In terms of so this is answering Matthew's question about the biggest learning curve. So for me, it was just like learning anything to do with code or anything technical. I don't see myself as a technical person. I see myself as like someone who's strong at the soft skills that can do the technical things. So some background as the sort of person I am and why it's challenging. Often I've been, up until this point, I pick up things quickly. So I would finish exams in like less than half the time. I think things would just click for me. And then when I started to learn programming and test automation, it was so fucking hard. Like I felt like getting to the point where things started to make sense was really tough. So I think it was just like persevering, but then it's like, I knew what I felt like awaited for me. Like I was confident that this is what I wanted, but it was so frustrating. And especially like often your code editor would help you with an error saying like which line it is in or whatever. But sometimes that's not always the case. Or like I'd become blind and the problem would be right in front of me, but I just couldn't see it. And I would just like be cussing. I've sworn a few times during this meetup, but I'd just be like pacing back and forth. So I think it was learning how to stick at something as a personality trait. I'm someone who had to learn to persevere. I'm by no means like a stubborn person, you know. What do you wish you had learned sooner in your career? Okay, I'm not going to answer. Okay, what I wish I learned sooner. I don't know, because on one hand, I really, really liked my job where I got laid off. So I'm like, I wish I learned test automation sooner so they would have kept me, not made me redundant. You know, like that's the thing. But then I did, as a result, get a job in Sweden and I met my husband. So I'm happy with my life, you know. So for me, things happen for a reason. But that's the truth. Like I do wish I kind of, instead of having it in this like, oh, you should learn it, I wish I stopped procrastinating. Something that I did learn early in my career, but I have struggled to apply, is advocating for myself. So I you know, there's this idea that like if you work hard and you do a good job, you'll be recognized. And by recognize, I mean in your performance review and your salary review, right? And Gabby and Chris can talk about this and their experience. So I remember thinking, oh, if I work hard, I know I'll be recognized and I'll get like a good pay increase. And then that wasn't always the case. Like they'd have to hear about it for them to give you that recognition. But then even then, I had been in situations where I would get a really good performance review, and then they didn't say they had any problems with me, but then the pay didn't reflect that. And then you speak to your colleagues because you know what, people talk about pay, right? And then you find out that you're being outpaid. Is that the word? Yeah.
It feels right.
You know, right?
Yeah.
So it's like learning how to like stand up for yourself. It's something that I do, but I don't know, it feels so like dirt. It's not dirty, but it feels so weird. It kind of goes against how my natural instinct, because I'm always like, oh, the right thing should happen. But that's something that I highly, highly recommend. I would love to hear Chris and Gabby's take on this.
I'll let Gabby go first. I've already spoken.
So obviously I'm not from a technical background, but just in general, something that I wish that I'd learned sooner in my career, probably not too dissimilar to yourself, Nicola, in that I think I started under the illusion that everyone knew so much more than me and was so much better than me. But I think a lot of people were maybe just better at pretending, or, you know, just had more natural confidence. So I would just say that mine would be to back myself a little bit more, I suppose. And I think this is very true for a lot of people in technical roles. You always assume that someone's so much better than you and they have a lot more knowledge. But if you actually kind of sat and spoke to that person, I'm sure you'd realise that they self-doubt themselves as well, and they're not maybe the expert that they come across as. So I think, linking back to what we were saying before as well, to Sean about his question, I think just asking people around you for help and support is just a massive driver in actually being able to move forward in your career. If you are too insular and you just stick to trying to learn things on your own, it will be a much slower process.
Exactly. It's like, it's a key way. It's like you don't know if you don't ask. You can always ask, going to be just no, but then if you've got people who you're surrounded by who go, I don't know this, however, I can point you in the right direction, then that's a good thing. If they don't have the answer, at least they're willing to help, or they might even come along with you for that journey. It's like, oh, I don't know, however, I want to learn that as well. Then you can always pair up and do it. That's things that I've done recently where I'm at, where we're unsure, but then we're going, okay, let's take a bit of time, let's just learn it together. Because I think there's a bit of a common misconception that developers and testers are mortal enemies. It's like, that's an old thing. It's like, we do try and be kind of like besties these days, because when you want to get a piece of work out, you want it to be something the whole team is proud of, rather than just kind of like, you literally Gandalf and you shall not pass with a piece of work. It's like, no, we were whole start to finish through this whole journey together. So I think that's more of a mentality now, especially with the kind of more agile methodology, is that there's more pairing and there's more working together, and it's definitely paying off. That's kind of my perspective on it anyway.
Wow, I think that is all of our questions. We've probably finished up on pretty much about time there. So yeah, as Chris said as well, everything will be recorded. So if there's anything that you want to watch back, or if people have had to leave a little bit early, we'll try and get that on YouTube sooner rather than later. And do definitely make sure that you check out Nicola's social media. And to be honest, if you're attending this event, I would imagine you're literally the perfect target audience for a book. So definitely check that out, because it's going to be massively useful for everyone that would be coming to an event like this.
If there's nothing for no one else, then I want to say a massive thank you to Nicola for coming this evening. You've been an absolute star. Thank you very much. So
thank you.
You're very welcome. And yeah, with the presentation before, I hope everyone found that insightful. If you have any questions, I've put on the link to our Slack channel. So if you want to any more, come and join us, and ask away.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. And we will be announcing the next event soon. So we will see you soon.
Sweet as.
Thanks.
Have a good day, everyone, or good evening, wherever you're from. Take care.